I often find that it's really hard to get started when you're writing an essay at university or if you're in college or sixth form. I'm only a first year uni student, but I've just written my first essay, and I think the framework that I use to write my essays can help you beat procrastination when you're writing yours. I feel like when you're set the task of an essay, it's so easy to just get so overwhelmed that you just leave it and leave it and leave it, and the deadline gets closer, and then you end up right on the edge of the deadline, rushing it, getting really stressed, and it's just not a fun experience. So when I'm writing my essays and I get a task like that, I have a structure that I use to kind of break down the sections of what I need to do to get the essay written. It just means it's a little bit easier and you're not going to procrastinate as much because the task itself doesn't seem so overwhelming anymore, and you kind of see okay, I just need to do this first before I have to do all the rest. Whereas without that, you think, oh my god, I need to write an essay, I don't know what to write, blah, 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 and you're lost, you don't want to do it anymore. So I'm going to share my structure for organising yourself when you need to write an essay. The first step when you come to write an essay is reading the brief and familiarising yourself with it. Obviously you need to know whether you need to have a certain word count, what they're looking for in the question and your answer, so that then you can roughly plan when you're going to do each step to make sure that you can get your essay done in time and with plenty of time. The next thing to do is to find resources, and here I try and find as many as possible. Go on your library page for your uni, go to an actual library, go on Google Scholar, any of the places where you can find academic sources, go on them, search in keywords of your title, any themes you can think of, just anything you can do to get just loads of bulk resources. And then what I do is I chuck them into a Notion template, which I'll have linked down below, as will all the rest of the Notion templates that I kind of talk about in this video. And I recommend probably spending a couple of hours on this, because when you start reading through them in the next step, you can add more to it and you will add more to it, but it just means that you can get a bank of resources that you can kind of go, okay, they're there, now all I need to do is read them. You don't have to kind of search as you're reading, which I think is really good. Each of these steps, try and, if you can, and you do have enough time left in your before your deadline, try and make sure that you give a day maybe to each of these tasks, so that once you've done it, you can actually not do any more of your essay. So it means that you've kind of spread the essay planning into separate chunks, and it feels a bit less overwhelming because you can just sit down and think, okay, today I just need to find as many resources as possible, chuck them onto the Notion, and then I can get on and do what I want to do. So just to explain my Notion template a little bit, on the side you have the name of the article. Now what I do is when I'm just bulk finding articles, all I do is put the URL, or if you've then gone to a library, obviously then collect the name of the book or something, anything that's going to be able to just lead you straight to that piece of information, but that takes the least time possible, so that you're just literally getting, you find it, you skim read it, you think this is useful, and you chuck it in there and you move on. And then just to explain the rest, usually when I read through my resources afterwards and start making notes, I'll then put if I think the resource is useful or not, so that's where the little tick box of yes comes from, whether I've analysed it or not, so I can keep an idea of how many I've done and how many I haven't, because obviously when it's in the spreadsheet you kind of can't see what you've written in each of them. You might do half of one and then not realise that you haven't finished analysing it, so that's just really good to just tick off and nice as you're going along. And then I also always have date accessed, because for a lot of web articles you need to put when you access them in your referencing, and it's really unhelpful if you were to get to the end of your essay and kind of say you've done this over a couple of weeks, you have no idea and you kind of just guess for all of them, and it's just really good to just, Notion has it so that you can literally just click on the dates, you don't even have to write it in or anything, so it's just perfect. And I would suggest that if you want to make your referencing process a little bit easier, maybe go through and add a section for author, a section for where it's published if it's a book, any section that you might need when you're writing your references is really good to also include in here as you're going along, so you don't have to click back into all of them. I didn't have that many references for this essay, so I didn't do that, but when I was doing my EPQ and I had hundreds and hundreds of references, I don't know how I managed to have so many, then it was really useful to just be able to see all the information I need for my reference right there on the page and be able to almost again go through and check them all off as I put them in, rather than having to go on the website, look for the information, which sometimes it's just too much effort at that point. And whilst you're reading it, you already have like easy access to it. You probably are already like getting all that information anyway. So it's just good to just jot it down whilst you're reading through them all. The next thing to do is read through all your resources. So this should be a task that you do maybe on another day. And this task will probably take the longest amount of time of everything. Maybe apart from writing the essay, but if anything, probably longer. So this is the bit that you should really like plan the most time for. So what I do is I'll like click on the URL or get out the book or whatever, and you just go through it, and any quote that you find, you copy and paste the quote in and make sure you put quotation marks so that when you come back to it, you know that it's a quote and you don't think it's your own writing, because obviously you don't want to accidentally plagiarise. And if this is like a book or something, make sure you add in the page reference. Just everything you can possibly do to make your life easier for yourself when you get to the writing. And then what I also like to do is just jot down any like themes, ideas, links, anything you think of that's kind of your own ideas. Jot that down, whether it's under the quote, maybe you have something specific you think of, or just as you're going along you think, oh, like I should research that, or like I could maybe talk about this. Whatever you do, just jot it down so that it's just out your brain, because you will forget it by the time you get to the essay writing. Like, you're not going to remember everything. And this is where your resource list will probably get longer again, because as you're reading through it, there's going to be bits you don't understand, maybe bits you think, actually that's a really good point, maybe I should get another piece of evidence to back that up. Just stuff like that, that you'll probably read something and then go, okay, now I know like some more search terms I can put into Google Scholar or whatever that will like further back up my like essay. So I have on mine, when you click onto the page of the Notion table, you have obviously the title and then any of the kind of like information of like all the category stuff. Here you see I also have number, which I'll come back to later on. And then you'll see I have quotations and then bullet points. So for the first one, you've got the kind of quotation and then a couple of things I think actually that's quite an interesting thing to like bring into my argument to write about later on. Now this step might seem a bit tedious, and when I first did it for my EPQ and I had hundreds of references that I was kind of sorting through, because the Notion page, although it's great because you just can put all the information and it's all there like organised and structured, because you have to click onto the pages, you can't actually see your notes. So what I found when I had so much information for my EPQ that I couldn't kind of like access and compile it all together. So, and I did do this with my EPQ, I kind of put everything together on one page. So it is possible even if you do have a lot of references. But with my essay that I've just done, I had around like 15 to 20 references I think by the end. And that's obviously perfectly manageable to chuck into a singular document. And what you do is go through all of the pages where you've got all your notes and just copy and paste all the notes and chuck it into this one section. And this is where the number reference comes in, because you like put the little number in brackets and then put your text underneath it. And so chuck it all into one page. And then what you next start to do is kind of read through it all and kind of move, like Notion's so good for this because you don't even have to copy and paste, you can move the blocks. So you just move them all together. So say you have like a couple of sources that all are kind of saying roughly the same thing, chuck them all together with their like reference number, and this is going to allow you to make links between all of your sources, which is obviously what's going to help you write the essay later on. Now what you're going to do is look at what your essay structure is meant to be. Obviously this is different for the kind of course you're studying, the kind of essay you're writing. So this is where you're going to refer back to your brief again and just double check that you've really got like a good idea of what structure you're meant to be following. Ask your tutor if you need to. So for example, I'll just talk you through what I did for my essay that I've just done. So I needed an introduction and conclusion, and then there wasn't a set number of paragraphs, but I thought from what she wanted in the essay, it was probably going to be like 3 or 4 paragraphs was going to be the right amount. So what I did is I just put headings, and I would just put introduction, paragraph 1, etc. And in each paragraph kind of like subtitle what you kind of want to include in that paragraph. This might be something that you're not actually quite sure on yet, so this is going to take a bit of thought. And then you might need to look through all of your like sources again and kind of group it into like paragraphs that you like have main themes, however you need to structure your essay. And so then what you're going to do is drag all of those like little linked sections that you've made into your paragraph blocks. Maybe there's a couple of like random bits of information that you didn't really think link with anything, but actually they work really well in the conclusion, really well in the introduction, and you just chuck them into the right section. And what I think is quite good to do here is obviously your whole word count for the essay, and maybe just give like a rough word count per like paragraph, because you might actually think as you're going along that paragraph's going to be quite a short one, but this one's actually going to be a lot longer, and how many words you want to leave for your introduction and conclusion, just so that when you come to write your essay you have a rough idea of how many words you're meant to be writing. And obviously if you come to write your essay and you end up writing a lot more than that, you can always go back and cut afterwards, or also add once you've written it, like the first draft. But I think it's just good so that you have an idea of like when you're writing, again, to just have those like almost mini like checkpoints that you're kind of like, okay, that's like a good amount for paragraph 1 that will roughly fit in the word count, like I can move on to paragraph 2 now, even if it means you're going to come back to it later. Now, after you've done all of these things, you're probably going to be a bit bored, especially if you've tried to do them in a shorter time frame. So a nice task that kind of makes you feel like you're still getting on with your essay, but almost lets you like procrastinate doing the actual essay a little bit, is getting all your references into the Word document. And also, and if you've got any images, make sure you put all the figure information as well. And it's kind of like a boring task, but you can probably do it with something on in the background, just like keep you going on your essay, but it's kind of like a nice little break halfway through the essay like process. If you've done on Notion by like including all your information, this shouldn't take you too long. And what I do is just write in, obviously like I'd have said, I'd have numbered them before, so write them in the order that you've numbered them, but for your references they need to be in alphabetical order at the end. So what you can do is write all the references out and then go on Word, and if you search in at the top there'll be a little like search bar, search in like alphabetize, and it'll come up with a little like A to Z, it'll come up with like a little tool that says like A to Z with a little arrow. Click on that, make sure it's set to paragraph so it doesn't try and do like every single line, and so make sure like you've written a reference and then left a space and then written the next reference, and do this and it will do it all for you, so you don't have to worry about like going and manually like counting through the alphabet. Just select all your references and press alphabetize. I didn't know this existed, but I found it out, so I hope it's a useful tip. Once you've done all of this, you then want to make like a little citation list that's just going to be for your reference that you'll delete at the end. But it means that as you're going through your essay, all you need to do when you want to like cite something or like say where a quote's from is just put the number in brackets. So remember earlier on I said that I would explain the numbers like thing. So the number that you kind of got with your reference, make a list of like that plus the actual citation, so the surname and the year if you're doing like half referencing. I don't know if it's the same for other referencing, I haven't done other referencing before. So that then when you go write your essay, you're just going to put the number in the brackets instead of the whole citation. Just saves you like a little bit of time. And obviously when you're looking at your essay plan, you're not going to have all the references, you're just going to have that number reference. So it just means that everything's like a bit more streamlined. You don't have to like go back and look for the actual reference information, type out the name that might have like a complex name that you just end up like mistyping or something. It just makes the process a whole lot easier. And in a bit I'll show you how to replace the numbers with your citation. Okay, so now you're going to have your citation list, your essay plan with all of your sources, and you're ready to write your essay. So what we're going to do is just go through section by section in your essay plan and write the essay. If you need to take breaks as you're writing the section, I'd say, for me, I feel like when I start writing I kind of get into a flow, so maybe try and write like a paragraph, don't kind of stop inside a paragraph, because I feel like starting a new paragraph is hard anyway, and I feel like it's easier when you're in the flow of writing, but it still is hard. But whilst you're halfway through a paragraph, it often just like keeps coming, so I would try not to stop mid-paragraph, try and like get each section done before you take a break. And what you need to remember at this stage is just get stuff down. It doesn't really matter if it's not the most perfect way you could have put it. Definitely keep the thesaurus up in your webpage so that every time you like think, I know what the word is that I want, but you know it's probably a better like academic way of saying it, just put it in thesaurus. Thesaurus is my absolute like god tool for writing essays. Every time I'm like, need another way of saying that, chuck it in thesaurus. But yeah, just really don't worry too much about how good it is. Just try not to like delete stuff, because especially when you're writing like introductions and stuff, the first version probably isn't going to be great, but it's 10 times easier to then write it and come back to it and go, let's change that, add that in, than deleting it all and then kind of starting from zero again. So just get stuff down. And then after you've done the essay, what you're going to do is just redraft it as many times as it needs to be until you're happy with the final outcome. Now we're going to replace all the citations, like I told you I would tell you how to do. Basically what you're going to do is go in that little search bit in Word again, and you're going to type in replace. It'll come up with a little tool again, click on that, and you should be able to go through, and there'll be a top section where you can put like your number in brackets that you'll have put throughout your whole essay. And then in the bottom section, look at your like citation list that you have at the bottom and type in the actual citation that you're going to use. Then you just press OK. Not only does this change every citation straight away in the easiest way possible, but it also tells you how many it changed, which I think is really nice to know if you've used like one source loads and you're like, maybe I've relied on that source a little bit too much, or maybe you've not used a source at all and you're kind of like, is there anything I can maybe go and pick out from that source that is useful? Is it not useful at all? Should I take it out of my references completely? So yeah, that's really like kind of cool to know, but it's just the best way of like just changing your citations really quickly. And when I thought about doing this, it was so much easier because again, like I said, it's easy when you're writing an essay and it's really easy to sort out at the end. And the other thing that's really good about it, it means you actually have like a bit more of an accurate word count of when you're writing, because for me, my tutor was like, the references don't count in the word count. And obviously if you've got like long citations or you chuck loads of citations into an essay, they're gonna like take up a lot of the word count, and you could be like, especially if it's a long essay, you could be skewed by like quite a big proportion, and you obviously don't want to do that. So if it's 1,500 words without the references, if you've just got a number every time you've got a citation, it just means that when you like highlight the like text that you've written and like look at the word count, it's actually going to be quite accurate. And of course, the final thing is to check through it again. What I do is chuck it on Grammarly. I have the little like plugin on Word. Just means that if you've done like any grammar mistakes, just any like small bits that you like haven't written it properly, you can just check through it and make sure you haven't made any like terrible mistakes. And what I also really like to do at this stage is to go on the like read aloud bit on Word, and I just get to read my essay out, because I feel like when you read something, you know, you have those like weird, like, they're not memes, but those weird like things where someone will write a sentence, they'll be like, where's the mistake? And it'll be like and or something. And you can't see it like automatically, and that's a problem with like reading it through. So what you really want to do is get it read aloud to you, so you can just sit there, kind of passively listen to it. You can almost even do this like a couple of times, and it just means that you'll be able to pick out any mistakes you've made, any bits that sound weird, whatever it is. It's a really good way of checking your work. And after that, you're now ready to submit your essay. I hope this video was useful to you, and if you have any other tips for essay writing, because it might be different for like whichever subject you choose. I'm currently doing contour fashion, so obviously writing for a creative subject is probably quite different to others, but I still think these essay tips are probably quite helpful in general. Let me know kind of what course you're studying, whether it's helpful to you. Thank you for watching. Love you lots. Bye.